This is the Dallas Morning News.
Eat, Drink, DFW from the Dallas Morning News is made possible by Central Market.
Hello, and welcome to Eat, Drink, DFW, the podcast from the Dallas Morning News food team. Each week, we take a look at food and drink trends in North Texas, talk about restaurants in Dallas-Fort Worth, learn some new recipes, and sometimes even get tips from you, our listeners. I'm Anna Butler, the Dallas Morning News' food editor. A very popular macaroni spot is planning to open its first DFW location, and we've been diving into what tariffs actually mean for us restaurant goers and drinkers in Dallas so far. That's all coming up right after this.
Central Market is really into food. Like when we say cheese, it's in 12 languages into food. Butchers, bakers, and sushi roll makers into food. We're talking so obsessive about quality you can shop blindfolded into food. Central Market is really into food. If you are too, then let us turn your shopping list into a treasure map. Get inspired, get adventurous, or just get a chef-made dinner when you've got more taste buds than time. No place makes every meal more amazing like Central Market. Really into food. Shop now at centralmarket.com.
For the latest food and restaurant news in Dallas-Fort Worth, visit dallasnews.com/food. Also, we'd love to hear from you, so email us at eatdrink@dallasnews.com. Today, I am joined by our food writers, Sarah Blaskovich and Imelda Garcia. Imelda, talk to us about Ronies. Or is it Ronnie's?
It's Ronies, right?
Yeah, it's Ronnie's.
Yeah, not Ronnie's.
So yeah, they are very near DFW. They're going to open their first location in Wiley, Texas. And this business, as you probably know, it's viral. I mean, on TikTok, they have over 15 million views and 800,000 TikTok followers and 500,000 YouTube subscribers for a macaroni restaurant. Can you believe that?
I love that. I
Yeah.
mean, does it feel like it was sort of created so the internet would like it? Or do you think that the food is serious too?
Actually, they got this famous for all the wrong things, you know?
Oh, no.
Yeah. We in Spanish said, mirando feo, pero sabiendo rico. It's like, this is an ugly thing, but it's delicious, you know? That kind of thing. So picture this. You're going to take your macaroni, you will choose your cheese, and then a lot of compliments, like when you are, for example, in a Subway, you know? When you choose what to put in it, but in a plate of macaroni. So it's an interesting combination.
Sounds like kind of the Chipotle-ifying of macaroni and cheese. And I mean, I love macaroni and cheese. I could get into that.
I think it's appropriate to use Subway for this, though, because Imelda worked at a Subway.
Yeah,
You did?
I worked in a Subway like 20 years ago. Oh, yeah. I was studying college. If you ever want to know what to put in your Subway, call me. Send me an email.
So, Imelda, are we only eating macaroni and cheese here with, like veggies on top? Or can you do other stuff?
I think you can do other stuff. They have like more than 20 toppings that you can put in it. And then they put it in an oven. And it seems like a homemade macaroni and cheese with a lot of weird stuff on it.
It looks like they were doubling down on the younger demographic because a lot of their first restaurant locations are actually in college towns. And then the other places that they are seem to have military bases, which I just find fascinating because I feel like there's like a young soldier out there that doesn't care about carbs.
So if you want to know more, guys, about this, you can go to their Instagram. It's Ronnie's Mac Bar, and you will see a lot of disgusting but yummy things, you know?
Sarah and Imelda had a big story hit this week on the impact of tariffs so far on food and drink businesses in North Texas. You can find their coverage at dallasnews.com/food. But let's talk about what this actually means for people in DFW that are going out to eat.
So we've been dealing with tariffs for a few weeks now, right? And this is like a roller coaster. Some days they are up and some days they are down. So we don't know exactly what is happening. But now the thing that is more worrisome for the restaurant industry in general is the tariffs on China, because a lot of things come from China, as you know. So right now the tariffs are in a pause for 90 days, but restaurants are seeing increases in the things that they use to cook and equipment and things like that. I have a case, a very specific case. There is a business called Tasty Paella. It's run by Chef Adam Ventura. He told me that, for example, he imported thermal bags from China, and before the tariffs, they cost $1.60, and now they are $3.60. So this is an increase of 125%.
That is absolutely insane.
Yeah. We are talking about the rice also that he uses for paella. He used to buy the rice for $7.35 a pound, and now it's costing $13 per pound.
Wow.
It's expensive.
Those are really, really tough costs to eat too. When you're talking about jumping by more than 100% on the cost of an item too, which is kind of insane. But it's also, he's seeing this sustained rate of increase even after the 145% drop down to 30%, right?
Yeah, he gave me an example. He was trying to get a stainless steel cart, because he planned to use it for shows where he cooks paella in events. Before the tariffs, the cart cost $120, and then it went to $350. Now with the pause, it's $250.
And I think what's striking about him too is that he was talking about, okay, maybe you could switch suppliers or something like that, but they require a down payment of something like $10,000, which most small businesses aren't carrying that kind of cash on hand. That's super risky to try to go get a loan, especially if you're kind of in wait and see mode. And so he is just that quintessential example of someone who loves food, wants to feed people, and is just trying to make it work still.
Yeah.
The other piece of this tariff discussion to me is that consumers probably don't think that much about the unsexy parts of all of this. It makes sense that if rice went up, that this guy is potentially going to think about increasing his prices someday. But it's so much less interesting, I feel like, for consumers to hear like the equipment cost more or the to-go containers cost more. That's where this gets hard, is all those pieces of the supply chain that we forgot to think about when we sit down and eat a meal.
Yeah, because it's not just us worrying about our food and the actual thing that we're consuming getting more expensive. It's so much bigger than that. So your DoorDash fees might escalate.
I didn't think they could get any higher.
And Sarah, you were looking into the wine import portion of this, which really, really impacts businesses that are importing from probably the EU mainly when we're talking about Texas, but also, around the world too.
That's right, Anna. If the EU sees tariffs rise above current rates of 10%, one small business owner told me it might not be profitable to import any wines from countries like France and Italy. Now, these might seem like champagne problems, but they're not really, because the most vulnerable consumer when we talk about wine is not the person spending big bucks. It's the person who buys a bottle from the grocery store for under $20 and decides that if that bottle goes to $25, that's just too much money. Wine is sort of a luxury item, that's true, but I think a lot of people drinking wine are not drinking bottles of wine in the hundreds of dollars. And one Som I talked to who works at one of the finest restaurants in Dallas, Nuri Steakhouse, she said, I just really don't want people to stop drinking because they don't think they can afford it. She will sell a bottle of wine for $10,000 and they have those on their list. But she's more wondering, are my glasses of wine affordable enough, potentially in 3 months or 6 months, that someone will come to our steakhouse and not say, I don't want any wine.
Oh, so what I'm hearing is that the consumer will bear the cost of tariffs if they go up?
That's right. Everyone I interviewed, from a wine importer to a som to an expert in the field, all of them said the margins are running too thin already at restaurants and grocery stores selling wine. Business owners can't or won't absorb these potential price hikes when we're talking about wine. And so those of us buying these goods will have to absorb that cost, which means you and I, might pay more for wine.
But speaking of absorbing wine, Sarah, you did bring something for us to try.
Yeah, why don't we drink a little bit of wine in these trying times?
Oh my God, Sarah, you iced down the wine glasses.
I brought everybody a stemless wine glass that's been in the freezer because we're really going to try what's been called the drink of the summer. And it's hot here in Texas, so I want everybody to have the coldest wine they can.
I love you, Sarah, for this.
You're going to love me even more in a second, Imelda, because I brought something specifically for you.
Wow.
Okay, we are going to drink chilled Sauvignon Blanc in cold wine glasses with jalapeños or serranos as ice cubes.
I'm thrilled.
Oh, okay, good. I thought you were going to say I hate it. This is a TikTok trend, and it's kind of all over Instagram now. It got popular enough, if this tells you anything, guys, that the New York Times wrote like a cultural explainer story about putting slices of jalapeno in your, quote, sauvy bee.
Oh, wow.
I don't see people in New York being able to handle jalapenos.
I think you skipped over a really important part, which is we shall not call Sauvignon Blanc Sauvy B. We're not going to do that. Although people younger than me seem to be doing it. But yes, the idea is that you freeze your jalapenos, or I brought serranos for Imelda because I just knew she would need more. And then you put them in the wine and it adds some spice. It keeps it cold, and it almost like spritzes up a glass of wine. You want to try it? Now, this is a ridiculous question, Imelda, but would you like a frozen jalapeno or a frozen serrano?
What a question. Let me have both.
Okay. I'm going to put a couple in there.
That's just a
Good.
fruit salad.
Yeah, this is salsa for me,
Well, and we cut them up so that they look like little slices in there. They're pretty darling.
But don't touch your eyes after this, Sarah.
Yeah, please.
Oh, great point. Okay.
I'm really happy that you know me that well, Sarah. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's important that we point out that the recipe does call specifically for jalapenos. Now, jalapenos are all over the map. Some of them are not spicy, and that's a real bummer. And so if you're a spicy person, I would recommend going a little bit more than jalapeno, because otherwise you're not going to get enough flavor in there.
It's like a shishito where it's something like every 1 in 7 is actually spicy.
Agree.
Those winter jalapenos are what I would do this with, though, probably, because winter jalapenos are spicier.
Now, I did freeze these, and then I read on the internet that if the longer you freeze a jalapeno, the less spice it gets. So y'all tell me about that too. Okay, would you like jalapenos or serranos?
I'll have serranos.
Whoa.
She's going for it.
I've been growing my own jalapenos.
I love that.
I love a salsa garden.
Oh, really?
I think some people do like a caprese, like Italian garden. I think being a Texan, a salsa garden is equally important, if not more important.
Well, I want to tell you guys that these peppers were grown in our garden.
Oh.
From my home to yours.
Wow. Thank you.
Cheers to the alleged drink of the summer.
Cheers.
Tell me what y'all think.
Getting the nose on it, and I am getting pepper through it. Definitely some sauvy
Don't do it.
and a little bit of jalapeno.
Okay, I will allow that. That's hysterical.
It's so gross. I hate
Sauvy
it
and
myself.
jalapeno.
I'm not going to forgive myself for that.
It would look so good in an Instagram caption, though.
I think this sauvy.
Stop doing that.
I've never said it until today.
Now she can't stop.
I like that it's slightly effervescent because I actually think it helps enhance the spice.
I like how it smells. I think when you hold it up to your nose, you smell that pepper, which is, that like vegetal, nice taste. And then I'm getting a little bit of spice, not a ton of spice. Note that I did leave the seeds in the jalapenos and the serranos. And if you care at all about spice, you want to do that.
So you've also had this to drink before. Does the spice build, or is your tolerance, though, as your taste buds are slightly numbed by the alcohol, does it net out? Is it a net? What's happening here?
Well, my husband and I tried this a couple days ago. So I'm not a veteran of the Sauvy with jalapeno. It's so good. It's so good. You've really started something, Anna. So this is my second time on this drink. And yes, I do think that when the peppers get a little unfrozen, you get more of their character. The drink to me is a little silly, but I like it. And I'll happily drink this all summer naked. No.
Oh, wow. Okay. No more alcohol for you.
Oh, man.
Thank you.
No, I mean the Sauvy bee is naked. Oh, man.
Raw?
Oh.
That made it worse.
Yeah, it did. Imelda, do you get spice at all? And do you like it?
So in Mexico, we have this salsa that is called salsa borracha. That's drunken sauce, So this is something like that. I mean,
It does remind me of a jalapeno margarita.
yeah.
I was like, I'm not upset about that.
Yeah.
I'm a big white wine spritzer person, just more if I'm like day drinking, it's going to be a long day. I think I might prefer the jalapenos and something like that to this to add a little bit more depth to it. I was trying to think about a way to do it with an even spicier pepper, but like a Thai chili, they tend to get smaller when they have the higher capsaicin levels, and that doesn't do the ice cube thing. So
Maybe with habanero. Oh.
beautiful colors.
Yeah.
Maybe you could also, like, according to the New York Times picture, they stuffed so many jalapenos in this cup. We all have 4 or 5 slices, which seemed normal. They filled a cup with jalapenos and then put wine on top of it. That seems like pepper abuse, but
It seems like the food stylist did.
fair.
I think Julie has something to say about this.
I love this and I want to drink it all summer. I think this is amazing. And I'm going to call it Sauvy B with the holly, what do we call it? Holly P?
We have a convert. This makes sense to me in the Texas heat. So I love that you love it, Julie. And anybody who had seen this on the internet, now you know that it's pretty delicious.
I want to make ice cubes of this, or maybe a popsicle, you know?
I have an idea. You could cook down some jalapenos so that you get like a syrupy thing. Then you could freeze the syrup with jalapenos in it. Because if you freeze jalapenos in water, you're going to get water in your wine.
Some people can turn water into wine.
No more wine for you ladies today.
Man,
Thank
we
you.
brought it back to religion.
Okay, this is it.
Okay, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're speaking with a listener who has some thoughts on wine markups at restaurants.
Central Market is really into food, like fish flown in so fresh it still has jet lag into food. Our sourdough starter has been around since grunge was a thing into food. We're talking more prime cuts than a greatest hits album into food. Central Market is really into food. If you are too, then we're the HQ for you, whether you're a make every recipe in the cookbook foodie or a my favorite recipe is reheat type who just digs the delectable. No place makes every day more delicious like Central Market. Really into food. Shop now at centralmarket.com.
Welcome back. In just a minute, we talk to a listener about some of his wine markup woes. But first, we'd love it if you would help us spread the word about our podcast. If you like it, please tell your friends or anyone you think would appreciate all the important information we share each week, including wine taste tests. It would mean the world to us. So we got an interesting email from a Dallas Morning News reader who is concerned about wine prices in restaurants.
That's right. Bob asked us a question I think will resonate with a lot of Eat, Drink, DFW listeners. He asks, is a marked up bottle of wine worth buying at a restaurant? Let's call Bob Levovitz and ask him to explain his question.
First of all, thanks for having me on. It's good we're talking about this. I'll just say my wife and I like our wine. We often share a bottle at dinner at home. It's supposedly good for us, they say. And so when out, we like to do the same and usually get a better than everyday bottle, or at least we did. My feeling is that everything has become more expensive. We expect that. But with the wine list of some of the more upscale restaurants, it seems to have become a higher, often a 3 times markup as well. That's in addition to the fact that retail bottle prices are up. Yeah, it's a pretty glib summary. It may not be accurate, but it's the way it feels to us. I'll just add that at a good restaurant, any good restaurant can seem expensive because the ingredients are in this preparation. Yeah, you can get oysters at the market for $1 or $2, and it might cost you 3 or 4 times more than that at the table. But look at what's being added, how much more you're getting than just half shells on a plate.
Mm-hmm.
Wine, to me, seems to be more like a commodity. The restaurant doesn't really add much. Sure, there should be a cost for the glasses and the pouring and perhaps the ambience. But the issue to me is how much of a markup is justifiable and at what point people start opting out.
Bob, that's a great question. And I know you're not alone. I'm a wine drinker as well. And one thing I'll say to start is that I've started drinking more cocktails in restaurants because of this very reason. It does feel like wine is getting more expensive, and you're correct. It actually is. Now, let me offer a scenario that might answer part of your question, Bob, and then please ask us anything you want to after that. We'll start with the basic fact that wine is almost always marked up at 100% or more at restaurants. So the internet says typical rates are 200% or 400%. So this markup that you're feeling is correct. And restaurateurs will even tell you, yes, we mark up our wine. That's what every restaurant does. And that's how they make a good amount of their money. So I thought, how could we take an example and track it across a few restaurants? So I said, okay, well, let's look at a bottle of Cab from Stag's Leap, which is a winery in Napa Valley. And so I went to a couple of different restaurants' websites and just looked at their wine menus to see if I could make an apples to apples comparison for you and then compare it to retail price. So here's what I got. At Georgie in Dallas, this bottle cost $165 for the 2018 vintage of Stag's Leap Cab. They're also, though, selling a special cask made in 2017 for $585. All right, then we're going to move over to Nuri Steakhouse, which is another high-end restaurant in Dallas. It has a 2020 vintage of Stag Leap's Cab for $385, but that's a 1.5-liter bottle, so it's bigger than a typical one. Okay, so we've got 3 wines made in the same vineyard and in just a couple of years, but the prices swing from $160 to $585 for a single bottle. These 3 wines are not the same, but we want to see how their retail price changes, and we want to talk about markup. So then I looked at, wines.com and a couple of different places to see, how much are these supposed to cost if you were to go to a store? And the 2018 vintage looks to be about $100 more than the retail price. Okay, the 2017 special cask, remember the really expensive one at almost $600,
Right.
costs $300 more in the restaurant than it would in a store. And then, of course, that 2020 1.5 liter bottle, I couldn't even find a good example of how much it would cost in a simple Google search. So is that $385 price a good one, or do we just take their word for it? And so, Bob, after this experiment, I think I learned there's a lot of gymnastics happening here with wine prices, and that this is a bit of a game that we can't really understand deeply, other than to know that we're being charged more for bottles of wine, and they're open about saying that. So what would I suggest? I'd say buy wine by the glass if you're drinking just one or two glasses, and then to expect a markup that you can't control in pretty much all cases.
You think that 3 times the markup is pretty much the standard now?
I do not think it's out of the ordinary. And restaurants I don't think they have a hard and fast rule across the board. So I don't think it's fair to say that like X restaurant, marks something up 3X and the other only marks up all their wine 1X. I think it depends on the wine and how much of it they're selling and how much of it they have and how special it is or isn't. I think there are so many factors here that make the math really hard.
And it seems this conversation gets more complicated if we are talking about European wines, right?
So, Imelda, that's right. We've been talking to importers and sommeliers this month about whether they're planning to adjust their prices higher if wines from the EU are tariffed higher than they are now. So, Bob, have we made this any better or worse for you?
Well, it certainly clarifies one thing, because I was going on memory of what seemed to be a much lower markup that may have been incorrect. But it seems excessive. I can't get away from the fact that adding something to the price of the bottle is absolutely a necessity, no doubt about it. But adding $120 or $130 to a $70 bottle seems to be more than is reasonable.
What I will say, though, in defense of restaurants is they're actually able to import a lot of things that we can't buy retail. I have found some phenomenal Hungarian wine or Greek wine at restaurants in Dallas-Fort Worth that we're not able to import. And so maybe that's where we're able to flex a little muscle, still enjoy some wine without some of the sticker shock.
We've noticed at a place like Barsati, we've been able to find some very nice Sicilian wines in that batch. Not nearly as pricey as some of the more well-known Italians.
Bob, I think this is a good point, and we will be writing more about this, why these markups exist and what we know about it. So stick with us and you'll hear more from us on dallasnews.com. I'll say just one more thing. I think that people who can spring for the bottle and it's special to you at a restaurant, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, we should all pick the bottle we can afford at the store and come over to my house and know that we saved ourselves hundreds and hundreds of dollars and we can still drink great wine.
And maybe bring a small plate of pasta too.
You sound like a good dinner party guest, Dr. Bob. That's fantastic.
We have fun.
It's so nice to talk to you, and we hope to hear from you again soon.
Thank you.
If you have any tips for great places to pick up wine at a fair cost, or, just exquisite wine that is worth the cost every time at a restaurant, email us at eatdrink@dallasnews.com. That's all the time we have for today, and we don't want you to miss an episode. Make sure you're following Eat Drink DFW wherever you find podcasts. Special thanks to our producer, Julie Fisk. For the news, I'm Anna Butler. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Eat, Drink, DFW from the Dallas Morning News is made possible by Central Market.